Should I should I have a copy of post?
Hey, everybody, this is Munson Steve. And of course, this is Meet the Author. There are authors who have connected the entire universe and spaces and feelings and emotions that we often have had and needed to meet that person who walked a kindred spirit. There's a loving person who said, "This is what it takes to succeed." There are three books out. One is a pivot, one is an entombment of what it is to be a woman and meet another woman, and a connection that could only a postcard could bring hope and truth to us. There are others who are trying to figure out what and how you navigate corporate America and be successful. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than my phenomenal sister, someone I love, respect, and admire. Admiration is something that we share with someone who is a bright light, not only to you, but to others. Welcome to Meet the Author, Caroline Clarke.
Well, Munson, thank you so much. All of it back to you. All of it.
Thank you. Thank you. When you were first thinking about going to Spelman and you were going to make this journey, did you know that you would have a book in you?
Oh gosh, no. Spelman. So I went to Spelman as an exchange student my junior year. I was at Smith College, and I just had to get out of Smith College. Being from New York, I was not used to being the only. And at Smith College, I was the only Black woman in my dorm. I was the only Black woman in most of my classes, and I needed out. So, Spelman was the logical choice for me. And it was the best choice I could have possibly made. I had one of, to date, the best years of my life at Spelman College. And it's not something you can duplicate it really in any other circumstance. Did I think I had a book in me? No, I was trying to figure out my life like every other 20-year-old on the planet.
So you figure out your first book deal. What was it?
My first book deal was not hard won because I was the head of Black Enterprise Books. I had launched Black Enterprise Books at Black Enterprise, and we had decided to publish a series of books just to expand the brand. And the first idea I had for a book was this idea of an oral history. I had read oral histories in college and I loved them. This idea of first person narrative, which, we talk all the time now about storytelling, but back then it wasn't as much focused upon. And there was something about written oral history that resonated so strongly for me. We do so much in video now, and video matters, but there is still something very, very distinctive about reading the words of a person who spoke them originally and taking them in visually as opposed to really seeing and hearing them. So I wanted to do this oral history of successful Black people, contemporary achievers. And the result was this book, Take a Lesson, Today's Black Achievers on How They Made It and What They Learned Along the Way. So there were people in that book like Spike Lee, the filmmaker. Ken Chenault had just been named CEO of Amex at the time. Johnny Cochran, OJ's lawyer. And then there were a lot of people whose names you didn't know, but whose stories I felt like needed to be known. So that was the first book. But, luckily, I ran the book division, so I got to publish myself.
So in what would you tell yourself if you got to do it again? We're going to run a collection of women's books for business women, and you could launch a line. What would be the three books that you would launch for women in the titles?
Oh gosh, Munson, way to put me on the spot. The reality is when I published the original Take a Lesson, my vision was for a series of Take a Lesson books. And I wanted to do one that was only women. Women were really starting to move, particularly in corporate America at the time. Now, Black women are not just breaking through all sorts of ceilings in corporate America, but we are the most prolific new entrepreneurs in this country. We are launching businesses at a higher clip than anybody. So honestly, now I would probably do two take a lesson women's books, one specifically for entrepreneurs because that's its own type of journey, and one for women, climbing in corporate, which is a hyper specific type of journey. There's a lot of crossover, but corporate America tests you in a way that nothing else does, and entrepreneurship tests you in a way, as you know, that nothing else does. So I think being able to really share other journeys with them and give them the inspiration and the very targeted lessons that could help them bypass some of the pitfalls, I would want to do that.
There was one more book you owe
I
me.
know. I thought you were going to let me off the hook with that. Um,
I really would. I will. So,
No, I'll give it to you. I think the third book would either be really targeting younger women, women just coming out of high school and college, because we have so much to learn from one another, the generations, um, and I think formalizing a dialogue there um, would be a great thing. I have so many, I used to think of myself as that younger woman. I think we all do in some ways. I have a daughter who's about to be 28 years old, which blows my complete mind. And for a long time, I thought of myself as adulting. Like some days still, I think of myself as adulting. But when I watch her and her friends, when I look at my nieces, and so many of the younger mentors I have in my life, I realize, there is something to this age thing, right? There is something to spending a certain amount of time on the earth. You just know stuff that you can only gain by being here for a while. And so I think imparting some of that in a formal way would be another great take a lesson piece.
cool. Ladies and gentlemen, you saw she just showed up. Um, Take a lesson. I love that. And then the second book happened. Where were you, and how did you intersect with publishing again for your second book, and what was it?
My second take a lesson book or my second book? My
The
second
second
book.
second book. We're kind of
Second book.
walking
So
everybody through this author's quick life.
second book is this one, Postcards from Cookie. This is Cookie. And Cookie was my biological mother. This is a memoir. Now I have to tell you, and you know this, Munson, I am the last person on earth who thought I would ever do a memoir. Can we stop this?
All right, Cookie. You were kind of talking about Cookie, and tell
Yeah,
us.
so you asked a minute ago if I thought when I went to Spelman I would ever have a book in me. I didn't. And I certainly, to the degree I thought I might, it would not be a memoir. My career has been about telling other people's stories, not telling my own. But when something happens to you that is just so beyond the beyond, um, especially if you're a writer, I guess, it begs for the story to be told. And in this case, I was able to reunite with my biological mother. I was adopted at birth, given up for adoption, and adopted by the world's most wonderful people. Um, and finding her was really happenstance. I had not gone searching for her, but when something in life is meant to be for you, it happens. And so that happened for me. And reunion is happening all over this world. Um, the proliferation of DNA testing and, ancestry and all these things. People are getting calls, people are getting messaged, and people are finding people who left their lives for one reason or another or who they never knew existed. And it's a complicated knot. It's a beautiful, incredible thing, but it is not an easy thing. And so I wanted to tell a story that said that, that things can be hard and amazing and wonderful at the same time. And that reunion in particular is something you can move through and kind of make miracles.
You know, you almost told that story right. As
You got to
someone
correct
who's
me, are you?
someone, it happens when brother and sister see and have an experience. Each has a different experience in the same day, the same place, in the same book.
That's absolutely true.
And the omission of the characters of your adoption, the backdrop of one of the world's greatest entertainers, and the complication of status, class,
Yeah.
and moments in time, and then the angelic grace of at least meeting or understanding someone before they expire, and the newness in your heart, um, memories that are now compounded by new emotional value. I think it's different. And so if you haven't read it, you guys should read it. And we're not here for that book, but it's a lovely tale. And, she's famous. She has famous lineage. She had loving parents, and you're a loving mother. But there's a beautiful story that it tells a story about us as Black people at a time that still isn't captured properly. We're just beginning to have the narrative of, what those moments were like for people in that era. Um,
It's funny because you raise this point and you do this to me all the time. I struggle, right? I struggle with the celebrity pieces of my story. And the fact of the matter is, what did I find? I found that my biological mother, Cookie Cole, Carol Cole, is Nat King Cole's first child. And so my relationship to that family, Nat King Cole being my grandfather, Natalie Cole being my aunt, um, it is something that I almost never say when I describe this book. Now, I'm very clear. This story, as incredible as it is, it wouldn't have been published without that facet of it. But to me, and this is my struggle, right? To me, the stories that are most compelling are the stories of the people we don't know. Everybody has a story, that's true. And so many of our stories don't come to light, especially as Black people, because nobody cares. Nobody asks us. We don't ask some of the people we know best in the world or think we do what their story really is. And that's what drew me to journalism. So I don't mention that celebrity piece because I think celebrities, God bless them, but they get more than their due. And I think we heroize celebrities um, and think we're not like them and we're all the same. So, I'm always trying to minimize that piece that creates distance between us, I think. Somebody's got more money than me, or somebody's got less money than me, or somebody's taller, shorter, fatter, whatever it is, those things that divide us. When like you, I'm just always trying to find the ways to bring us together.
yeah, no, I love that, but I think even the complicated fact that a young woman had other people making decisions about her life, her body, and her moment are just things that are without celebrity, and how
Absolutely.
complicated celebrity can add
Right.
to normality, or the pain and suffering that happens to celebrities of color who don't get necessary support, that endure the pain and are exiting before they're 80. And they had
Right.
enough money to live off till they're 80, but the pain that they had inside from just the trauma of
Trauma.
being who they were. I think that trauma is real.
Yeah.
But when you think about your third book, and
Third
you tell
book.
this story again, um, take a
Right.
lesson.
Take a lesson. Black achievers on how they made it and what they learned along the way. So this book,
Tell
which
your editor that he forgot to write the one word that I would write about your lessons. And
today's Black achievers, what?
no, high. These are high. These are actually Black high achievers. These aren't just achievers. These achievers are incredible. And I say that, and I caution my team often. Um, are you giving people their due? Because there are a lot of achievers. These are high achievers. Johnny Cochran wasn't an average achiever. He
Yeah.
was almost an overachiever, even in his black space. Spike was out there creating and, you know, was doing D, E, and I in the film industry before D, E, and I was a
Was
three
a
words
thing.
was
Right.
it was even thought of, but just because of black rational thought coming from black enterprise and coming from being in Atlanta, and there's an expectation that we get slithers of our own pie, and if
Yeah.
it's about us, we should get most of the pie,
Right.
and so you have it. In
No,
this,
you're right. You're right. But you know, but high is a subjective assessment, right? Clearly, especially you raise a really important point, especially in the first book, these were generally, clearly, by any measure, overachievers, right? Elaine Jones, who was at the time head of the LDF, Ken Chenault, who had just been named CEO of American Express, Johnny Cochran, as you mentioned, Spike Lee, you know, these were overachievers. Um, this book, this second edition of that book, is 21 years later. And like a child who is born and then is 21 and full adult, this is an entirely different time. 2022 is not 2001. It is a completely different time in America, in the world, and for Black people. And I wanted to make the point with this version of the book that, to your point, high achievement um, is not something that is limited to the names we know. It is not something that is limited to those who are making, you know, gobs of money at the pinnacles of corporate America or business, but there is a broader swath of high achievement that we have to recognize and honor. And so, along with people like Ken Chenault, who was also in this book, because I revisited some of the original people, and Debbie Lee, you know, who retired as the CEO of BET and is now on some incredible corporate boards. And Malcolm Lee is in this book, right? Spike's cousin, but much more having his moment now than he was back then. Arnold Donald, who's the CEO of Carnival Corporation. This book also has a guy named Al Prentice McCutcheon, who's a history teacher in a public school in New York. Because Al brings just an incredible passion and intention to teaching his very diverse kids about history, right? So he begins his semester with meditation. This guy's right up your alley, Munson. He brings a very particular background and sensibility to public education, and he's doing it, you know. And one of the things I love about him is that he is also the head of the PTA in his school, because his daughters, actually, two of his three daughters, go to the school now. My parents were teachers. I'm here to tell you, I would have died before I went to any school that they taught in, especially while they were teaching there. But you know, he is just that guy, and he is elevating education in his classroom, in his school, and in his community. And I wanted people like him to be in this book, as well, right alongside, you know, the Ken Chenaults and Janae Nelson, who's just elevated to replace Sherilyn Ifill as head of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. So, you know, I want us to have a broader respect for the broadest achievements of our people, and make sure our kids have that too.
say the name of the book again, so that everybody show it again one more time.
Take a lesson, Black achievers, on how they made it and what they learned along the way.
So I just want you to share, because you've seen most, you've talked to most, given your position at both, you know, ELC, Black Enterprise, you've been present. How would you share the journey of reading your book, Take a Lesson? How would you share, you know, people who aspire to be big and bold in corporate America or in life, as a Black achiever. What lesson will you hope they take away, just based on even your new integration of an evolution and a collective mentality of business and personal success?
Um, I think what I love about this book, as I said, is that I love an oral history, right? I've spent my life interviewing people more than anything. And this is a collection of interviews where you get to hear people say the things they said to me. And I think to have an opportunity to feel like you are sitting with Keisha Lance Bottoms, former mayor of Atlanta, who's in this book, um, or this guy named Chaz Howard, who is the chaplain at the University of Pennsylvania, who went to the University of Pennsylvania and got kicked out of the University of Pennsylvania and came back, went on, got a divinity degree, and is now chaplain there. Is just an experience. It's an experience I get, that I'm passionate about and I love, that you get, but that most people don't get. And I think particularly for people who don't get the opportunity to have exposure to some of the people they would revere, you can do that with this book. And you can pick it up and open it up, and each chapter is self-contained. Each one is a person. So you don't have to have, a million hours to sit there and read it. You can put it down and pick it up and come back to it anytime you need inspiration, anytime you need reassurance, anytime you need to remember that as hard as it can be for us at times, individually and collectively, we are out there every day getting it done despite all odds. And, and that fortitude, that resilience, that ambition, that drive, those dreams, we need to remember and be reminded that, they are coming true for people every day. And how that happens is not complicated. It's no great mystery. It is getting up every day and putting one foot in front of the other and getting knocked down and getting up. It sounds so trite, but it is as true as the day is long. And if there's a through line that runs through this book, it's that all these people have failed. All these people have doubted themselves. All these people have had people say, this will never happen for you. But they make it happen. And you don't just ever make it happen once, you make it happen. And then you got to make it happen again. So, I think I just want us to stay inspired. I just want us to stay believing. I just want us to see that it is happening all the time. Because when you see that, you know that it can happen for you.
Cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the phenomenal Caroline Clarke at Meet the Author. We appreciate you so much. We've got to delve in. Maybe we'll read this book together or put some kind of group together to do it. But if nothing else, ladies and gentlemen, there are at least two books. Obviously, the new book, you can put it up one more time, is a great take a lesson. And obviously, Postcards from Cookie are part of the canon of Miss Clarke's work now. And obviously, we've got new books coming soon. But take a lesson, share it with a friend, inspire each other. But thanks for coming, Miss Clarke, to be a part of Meet the Author.
Thank you so much, Munson. Thank you.